Good evening, peoples. It is now time for us to start drilling down into some of the details using Libre Office to help us get into some of the details regarding the coronavirus data. So before I got involved in this particular video, I decided to do a bit of research to find out if it's possible to do sums that allow me to only sum data that is limited to one country, and it turns out that it is.
It says here,
so tonight we're going to take a look at that. The particular function we use is called SUMIF. So I'm going to go in and demonstrate how this actually works. So we're going to put, for starters, sum
the mental processes of an individual in the group.
We'll put a bracket,
synchronized,
and now we go and hunt down the range. Now the range we're particularly interested in is the range of columns that are associated with the country. And in this particular case, it's going to be the country / region.
In this state, some people have
the reason we do this is we don't have to have the data sorted
of sorts
for this to be
that's exactly what happens. Now,
valid data, and it's going to make it a lot more flexible. So now we've got that, we are then going to put in the value. In this case, we're going to look at the US data. So we're telling it to go down the list of the column and only add if the corresponding row has some a country of US. So now we're going to go and get the sum range. In this case, it's going to be the E column, and that's going to be a little bit hard to see because of our little helper. But trust me, this is certainly the E column. There we go. Now we'll start to drag down to the bottom of this column, and we now have
it almost necessarily follows
E226 as our final range. We will put in a bracket, press enter, and we can see that it has come to a sum value, a total of 1. Now this seems a little out of date or out of kilter. So we're going to take a quick look at all of the columns. I have sorted them, as you can probably see. We've sorted them so that all of our countries are together. So let's go down and see if we've got any more than 1. So 1, we've got zeros, zeros, all the way down. Keep looking, see if you can see any more non-zero numbers. No, we get down to the bottom and there's only the 1. Now,
well then,
we're going to go ahead and see if we can move this value across. So let's do it.
Sony Records, Sony Music Group.
Actually, we'll go across
These are
a
the
few,
big 3,
just for
and
the hell of it.
Universal is the biggest of
Now notice this time we've got 0.
Universal Music
Why have we got
Group
0 when it was supposed to work before? Well, the simple fact of the matter is all our countries are in column B. As you can see here, we've gone to column C and D and F and G. We don't want that. So we're just going to have to back up a bit, and we're going to have to fix this particular column up, and we're going to put $1 in front of each of the B's because we want it to stay on the B column.
Universal Music Group owns several other labels. Among them,
now let's try and do that again.
We'll just take a look
at a
few of them.
Small test
Music Group,
just to make sure it all works.
Universal. We're still on Universal.
And yes, it does work. So
Astral Works, Another label, Blue Note Records, Capital Christian Music Group.
I don't like where this is
Capital
positioned.
Records,
We'll sort that out
Studios,
later.
Caroline,
That's okay.
Deepwell Records,
All right, let's
Harvest
go out
Records,
the rest of the way to
Morpheus
AX.
Music, Motown, Quality Music Control,
because that's
and Virgin
where we
Records.
were a couple of days
And
ago.
under each one of
We haven't
these,
updated the data
there
since
are
then.
others, such as Interscope and so forth. It's a
And there it is.
convoluted
We now have
business.
gone up to
Again, this is an
417.
entire study
So
on
what we can
itself.
do now is let's take a look
We
and
are here
see
focusing on Capital
what
Christian Music Group, which
the
is owned by Universal
graph
Records.
looks
We're gonna
like
take a look
for
at some of the
United
artists
States.
that are
Okay,
represented by the same people that represent 50 Cent, Dr.
this
Dre,
one is just simply
Drake,
confirmed
Jay-Z,
infection, so we'll just call it
Lady
confirmed.
Gaga, and basically anybody
And we'll
famous at
say
this point.
US.
There you go. Nas, Nelly, Ludacris, right? All
Okay.
these people. The same people that represent them also
And
represent
then we
Amy
will grab
Grant.
the dates again.
Sure you've heard of
Dates
Amy
we don't
Grant.
have to worry about changing because they've got that little dollar
Big
value in
ladies.
front of them already.
Um,
So we're just
I
going
don't
to
know
copy
who these two are,
that,
frankly, perhaps you do. But
bring
here's
it
some
down
other
here,
names that
and
you'll
then
no
paste
doubt
it
be
into
familiar with.
place.
There's Cody Carnes. There's Chris Tomlin. He's a big
At
one.
this point in time, we are ready
Chris
to
Kilala
create
of
a new
Jesus
chart.
Culture. David Crowder.
And this
Looks
new
like
chart
Andy
is
Goki
going
right
to
there.
be
Hillsong
specific
United, of course.
to the
Jeremy
country
Camp.
of
There's
United
Hillsong
States.
Free. There's Hillsong Worship. They're really cornering the
Let's
market
go.
on bands there in the Hillsong group. You
Go
got
back
Jesus Culture,
here,
Bethel
take it
Church
up
in
a
Reading.
bit.
You got Carrie Joe,
Yep, that's better.
Kim Walker Smith, who
Now
is
we can put the chart
an
in.
integral part of
Nice.
Jesus Culture and one of the founding
Line.
staple pillars of the movement.
And
Who's this? Mac Brock
yeah, that's all fine.
and
That's
the
all
Passion
fine.
Band with
We
Louis
want
Giglio out of Passion City Church. Well, and some various others. Social Club Misfits. I guess these guys are pretty popular these days. We the Kingdom, Toby Mac.
Okay, so we're just going to say it's
Get the
US
picture.
this time.
Some of the most notable names in the Christian music industry
And it's
today
going to be
are
COVID
effectively
Whoop.
owned by Universal Music Group.
dash 19.
This is a worldly conglomerate. That is
Okay,
guided
as
by
per
the
usual, I'll go back
of this
to
world. It is not
the
biblical,
web
not even kind of.
page.
However,
grab
they, like any savvy business
the
person, realize
link
that
for
there
the
is a
data
massive
source.
market within Christendom
And
in the general sense.
then we will put in,
In
for
other
the
words, they know
x-axis
they can make
date,
money by
and then we'll
marketing
just simply
these
say
artists,
here,
and so they do.
confirmed,
This particular record label here, it's called Providential
brackets,
Label
US,
Group, is owned by Sony
and then
Music, one of the
finish.
big three. Warner Brothers or Warner Music Group used to own.
Yeah, we're
They
going
sold.
to move
They
things
sold
around
the
a little
stake
bit. I
that
want
they
to
had in a
maximise the size
Christian
of the
company.
graph.
And so, as far as I know, it's only Universal and Sony that
Here we
also
go.
own
And then we can
specific
pull it
Christian
down
labels.
and take a good look at
Here are
it.
some of the artists represented by.
Now, isn't that
Sony.
interesting?
This would include.
Even
Casting
though the
Crowns,
numbers
there you go.
in the US
Matt
are
Maher.
currently fairly low,
Matthew West.
you'll notice that the
Who we got
shape
down
of
here.
the graph
Um,
follows
That's-
very
it's just so hard
closely
to
all
keep
of
up
the
with
other
those people.
countries. So
Thankfully,
let's
I
go
am
back
out
and
of this
take a
loop.
look
Zach
at the other
Williams,
countries.
Vertical Worship, 10th Avenue North, right? Some pretty famous
not
names.
that one.
These people are all
We'll talk about that one in a
signed
moment.
to a label that is owned by Sony Music. Again, another
Here we are.
worldly music
We've
label.
got one for Iran.
Now, if these artists
know,
aren't
it's
united by the
very
record label
low,
that owns them,
right at
they
the
will
bottom.
be united by
And
the,
then
by the
it
booking
climbs
agent
up.
that they use. And the booking agent,
and it's up
effectively,
into the multiple thousands at the
manages
moment.
their touring schedule and
Same with
all of
Italy.
those
We've
details.
got the
And so
got that
Jeff Roberts
curve
and Associates,
upwards, which
a
indicates a
popular,
geometric
booking agency,
progression.
your concert ministry partner.
South Korea is looking a little
They
different.
represent people like Bethel
we'll
Music from Bethel
Deal
Church,
with that in the course of time, and of
Bethel
course
Music
there is
Leaders,
our standard
doing
global
the Hillsong thing there.
infections, which is something you
Casting
won't see
Crowns,
if you go back
Flame
to
for King
the
and Country.
original graph,
They're pretty popular.
because this is just showing
Francesca
China alone.
Battistelli,
It's not showing.
I Am They.
There
Jordan
doesn't seem to be
Felice.
any way that I can see.
There's
getting it.
Mac Brock again. Ledger, who's
It
part
just
of
still says with
Skillet.
China.
Leland, they're out of Bethel
I
Church.
wonder what happens if I double
part
click
of
it.
Bethel Music in its earlier days, and then kind of branched off. There's Matt Maher again, Matthew West,
Right, that doesn't seem to work.
Michael W. Smith,
It does
North
give a
Point
nice.
Worship. Boy, there's Skillet. I did an entire video
Okay,
responding to
let's double-click
Skillet and
this.
showing their waywardness. This is a group that
That's
literally tours with Marilyn
Didn't know it
Manson
would do that
and
before.
other people that are overtly demonic.
And once you get to a certain magnification, it won't
Worship,
do it. But
Zach
no,
Williams,
it's just not refusing to
all
show
the
it.
Bethel music leaders, right? These
So it's
people
trying to make out that there's more recoveries.
You get the picture.
Well,
and
64K.
You've got, I think this is William Morris.
Yeah, no, this is looking rather deceptive. I think we're going to be staying with our own graphs for now.
Jeremy Kim.
I don't know if it's deliberately deceptive or just the way they've drawn it. But I do notice, if you go and take a look...
Phil Wickham.
Let's refresh this page, but if you take a look at this page, when you first refresh it,
some pretty prominent,
you'll notice that it's sitting there at 114,000 confirmed infections, and that looks really scary.
Anything you can think of. This is just the Christian.
But when you consider that 64,000 have recovered, that's over half the number.
Contemporary.
That means that we're in the order of about 50,000. It's a much smaller number. I think. Here we go. We'll go over here to the recovered side tab.
This is another booking.
If you take a look here,
you got Amy Grant there. You've got Chris Tomlin. You've got Danny Goki.
We can go up even up to the top and look at the original number for AX, and that's only showing 43,000 active infections, which means everyone else has got better.
All that you know to be the Christian music industry.
So when the time comes for me to update the figures, I'm not really sure if I'm going to do it tonight, but maybe at some stage in the next couple of days when I'm ready to do another video, we will definitely update the figures again. I reckon about every 3 or 4 days is a good way to go.
It's going to make sense of things as we get into them. When you realize
so we've got,
managing these artists,
we're going to go down and we're going to adjust the formulas that we have for these others, because this is going to save me having to change it every time they change the columns. So right now we've got global confirmed, we don't have to do anything with that, that's just simply the sum of everything from the top down to
fundamental conspiratorial kind of way.
226, nothing to be done there. South Korea though. Okay, all we've got at the moment as our formula is E131. So let's do a sum for South Korea, and at the moment we just look there and it just says straight out South Korea. Okay, so let's go and change that formula.
Why are all these Christian artists so-called yoked up?
So we're going to say
with these secular companies. The thing to keep in mind here that is different about this industry from most others.
Then we're going to grab this whole column again.
Is that in the realm of entertainment or the arts in general?
So we'll start at the top.
Unlike the realm of plumbing or restaurant touring, right? You are dealing with a realm that primarily propagates ideology. Primarily. The fundamental business of a plumber is to plumb.
Okay.
The fundamental business of a restaurateur is to dispense food and things. The fundamental
this time we just put in
of the music industry is to dispense ideas, ideologies, and philosophies. In this sense, it is the most dangerous and subversive industry around, and
this column here
ensnares people. And because some objections might be, well, this is their job, right? What are they supposed to do, right? Nobody can work for just an exclusively Christian leader, you know. Well, that's true. But if you work at a furniture store,
put a bracket at the end,
your boss happens to be a heathen,
and it's giving us the same number as we had before.
Not selling people ideas.
Now the only other thing we've got to do is remember to put in the dollar sign on the in front of the B
or music. You are getting into the realm
press enter
of
again,
ideology and philosophy.
And now we're going to.
You are getting into the realm of something inherently religious, in the sense that whether the person claims to be secular,
not what I wanted.
Right, an out-and-out atheist, does not mean that they are not giving you ideas and principles to live by. In that sense, it's a religious realm. It's a realm that is rooted in ideology, and therefore
7041. So when we paste in the new formula,
demonic ideologies as their primary source of business and revenue is to yoke yourself
It's
to
identical results. It hasn't
ungodly
changed
and
at all.
something that is
And
inherently
the beauty is, if
intended
I
to,
change the
wittingly or
columns
not,
around this time,
cause
we are
people
not
to
dependent
stumble and to believe falsehood.
on pinning it
can
to a
make a couch
particular
from
row number.
You can't
It
listen to
will
Lady Gaga
find
without
the
digesting
data
an ideology,
for us.
without digesting a specific world.
Now, I consider
There's a
that a
radical
rather
difference.
fantastic revelation,
And if you're
because it
yoked
means
up
when I go and
with
import
people
more
that are
data,
propagating
and we've seen that the
ideology
format changes
primarily,
all the time, we don't
a very
have to
dangerous spot.
be changing
So then
all
the
of the
question
columns all
becomes,
the time.
as I
It's
said,
going to find it automatically for
you know,
us now.
If this business
So
is so
because this
important,
is such
then
a
that
great
answers
little
the question,
finding,
what's the motivating factor
we're going to do
for
the
artists to get
same
into this
for
business? Well, it is a business.
Italy.
Yeah, but they have a talent to sing.
So let's go back and take
They
a
have
look
to
at
make
Italy.
compromises somewhere. This
How
is
many have we
radically
got for
unbiblical
Italy?
thinking. Radically unbiblical. There's just zero justification for it. All of that is worldly mindedness. Well, I have to go along to get along.
There we go.
Or
Italy
you can find
is
another job.
E58, and we've only just got the one row.
Find me a paid worship leader in the Bible. Love
Not
it.
that it matters. If they decide for some silly
somebody who
reason to
sings
put in
to
the
the
second
Lord
row, this particular
spirit
formula
and
is going to
truth.
pick it up automatically.
But this profession of worship
So let's go in and
a
make the
relatively-
appropriate
it's a
changes.
new anomaly. This is a exclusively a 20 and 21st century issue.
Okay.
You had hymn writers back in the day.
Let's grab everything in
have
that column.
Luxury in listening to these songs. Well, let's just go through some of these songs. 100 top worship songs, all right? We're just going to look at a few here.
Here we go.
How about number 16 on the list? How Great Is Our God,
Yeah,
written
this
by Chris
time
Tomlin.
it's going to be
Big songs here.
Italy.
How about number 25 on the list? What do we got here? Blessed Be Your Name by Matt Redman. You might
Don't
be
want the
familiar
bracket
with
yet.
that
I
one.
want an actual
How
comma,
about number 29?
because now we have to put in the next
Mighty
range.
to Save,
And the next
written
range
by
is going
Hillsong
to
Worship.
be
Right? I'm listing a few songs here that I suspect many people might be familiar with. Your Grace Is Enough. Now, this version was sung by Chris
here it
Tomlin,
is.
but it's actually written by Matt
okay.
Maher, who's a Catholic. So apparently,
And
His Grace
then we
isn't
can
enough.
put the
Ironic indeed.
bracket in at the end.
Number, what is this?
Press
49?
enter. It will take us down
That
to
is
the
not
bottom.
49. Oh, 89. Sorry.
Oh
89.
yeah,
What do we
you
have
better
here?
remember
Break
to put
Every
in
Chain.
the dollar signs in front of the B's.
Well, I can't read my own.
One. and
Your Love Never
two.
Fails, 87. Jesus Culture, right? Some really big songs you might be familiar with. I just want you to get acquainted. These are top 100 worship songs. You'll see the same
5,
names
8,
over
8,
and over.
3,
Bethel
4,
Music,
6, 3, 6.
Matt Maher, Casting Crowns, Chris Tomlin, Shane
And
Shane, Elevation
boom.
Worship, The Newsboys, Matt Redman.
It has given us identical
The
results.
Passion Band, Hillsong Young and
Okay.
Free, Natalie Grant.
Well, that gives me a bit of confidence.
Okay.
It also is going to make
Suspects.
things a lot
These are
easier
massive
and more
names.
convenient for me.
You're going to see just how interconnected all of
Iran.
these people are. But again,
We're going
as I
to
said
do exactly
earlier,
the same
be
thing,
aware
except this
that
time
behind every
we
collective
better
or
go back
behind
up
every
and look at the
artist
country
is a
column.
specific theology.
We said
and
Italy
a
and
specific
Iran. There it
teacher.
is. So,
So
we're
behind
telling it to look
Passion
for
Music,
that
for
particular
example,
value of
out
string
of Passion City
before
Church
it
in
tries
Atlanta,
to
Georgia,
add
as
anything
well
up.
as
So let's
Washington,
go back.
D.C., under the leadership of Ben
Okay.
Stewart and Louis Giglio, who's the founder of
Equals
Passion City
some
Church.
if.
Well, you have Louis Giglio. So behind
Okay,
the
so
Passion
now it's gonna
Band, you
search
have
through
the
that
theology or the lack thereof, of Louis Giglio. Okay? Now, Six Step Records is owned by Passion
There it
City
is.
Church, by the way. There's Passion City Music.
This
You
time,
can see
Iran.
at the bottom of the screen here, Passion City Church, the Passion Conferences, and Six Step Records,
And now,
who
the next
also
column.
has David Crowder, the Passion Band, and Sean Curran. All right. So this is a record company that is owned by Passion City Church. Behind Bethel Music,
here we
you
go.
have the theology of Bill
It's all
Johnson
in place.
from Bethel Church in Redding, California. These things do not
And-
exist in isolation. They come
Oh
out of
dear, I always
specific
keep forgetting to
movements
put the
or specific
dollars in.
churches.
But anyway,
Okay.
as long as I catch them
Behind,
before I
what is
really
this?
stuff things up.
Elevation Worship. Behind Elevation Worship is Stephen Furtick, the narcissist. Right?
Okay.
People have termed him a narcissist. Stephen
And-
Furtick, who reads himself into every passage in the Bible. All right.
There we
Behind
go.
Jesus Culture, you have Banning Leibischer here, who is
4, 7, 4,
something of a
7, 5, 8,
protege
2,
of
3,
Bill
4,
Johnson
7,
and right
4,
out of
7,
that
5, 8,
same
2,
movement.
3.
So, just
Good.
as a foundation, right? Behind Hillsong is Brian Houston, behind all of these artists.
Now, just as a matter of curiosity, let's go and take a look
theology.
And see how much figures have changed since the 7th.
The most important thing,
So
the
we've got
theology,
here-
is the thing that is most neglected. And so as long as you're a good singer,
Got
and
an
you can
idea.
say Jesus, and you're popular,
Not
and you look good,
particularly happy
and you have enough tattoos, and your
with
jeans are skinny enough, then
all of
every
these things clogging up.
will
I'm
book
getting bigger pages here, and I think I'm going to...
it's ridiculous.
Um,
And I say that as somebody with old tattoos, who, by the way, does not advocate for tattoos.
okay.
You want to be more like Jesus, stop getting tattoos. At best, it's an indication of immaturity.
Okay.
A topic for another time. Banning Libisher. Let's start here. Jesus culture. Many of you are familiar. Many of you sing their songs. Kim Walker-Smith. There's Chris Kilala. Chris Kilala. What is Jesus culture?
Tell us, what's Jesus culture? What is at the heart of Jesus culture?
Better idea.
Jesus culture is a movement that is all about raising up revivalists in the earth.
And actually never officially was called Jesus culture. It's actually the name of the movement.
Now, by the way, this is them at the Hillsong Conference in 2011. There's a promo for the 2012 conference the following year, but they've all been friends. All of these large groups have been friends for quite some time. So Jesus culture, as Kim Walker-Smith said, is a movement that's all about raising up revivalists in the earth.
Okay.
Whatever that means. All right.
I'm Bay
Bill Johnson.
Leacher, and I'm here with Bill Johnson, our senior pastor, author, teacher, preacher, all-around good guy.
One of our senior
Okay.
associates was just praying like, Lord, why'd you choose Reading?
Right.
And the Lord said, he said, I didn't choose Reading, I chose Bill.
Okay.
Too far above.
Just to provide
Alright.
some foundation for those who,
Take it down a couple.
for some reason, might not know anything about this,
Yeah, just there.
and you should.
Yeah, that's better.
Bethel Music, these are the people behind it, right? So they're talking a lot about Bill Johnson. God didn't choose Redding, California. He chose Bill Johnson.
Ah, look at that.
Just a little taste of who Bill Johnson is.
I'm gonna back
The
it up.
feathers started just appearing and falling in meetings, and then they started falling in our homes and in restaurants and things like that, just unusual things. So, you know, there are signs that make you wonder. We'll have wind, gust of wind that I'll get hit with, and hands for years.
What was it?
And we've had gold dust appear in people's hands for years.
We're going to...
I don't ever talk about
blow
it,
up
but
the side
frequently
of this one
during
a bit.
worship, we actually had it today.
it up.
Benny and I both saw gold will start falling
Feel
during
that.
worship. This time I think it started falling during our prayer time.
Okay.
Stretch.
This is not just wrong. This is insane. Okay? Bill Johnson, I don't know that
Yeah,
the
no,
word
that's
false
good.
teacher is strong enough, but that's the
Yeah,
word
that's a
we're
bit
going to
better.
use. He casually talks about
Yeah.
feathers just appearing in people's homes, and we've had it for years, gold dust just appearing in people's hands, and a gust of wind, and a glory cloud, and this is the tip of the iceberg. Bill Johnson is a man who says that if your gospel
drag
doesn't
that down
include
some.
mandatory physical healing, it's a false gospel, which is ironically a false gospel proclaimed by
Okay.
him. I hope you're familiar to some degree already with Bethel, but just to provide some foundation, the man behind
Drag it
Jesus
up some.
culture and Bethel music is this, meaning
Yeah, that's as far
that
as
those
we can go.
singers, Kim Walker-Smith,
Extreme
and Kim
real estate
Kilala,
that's going to
believe
limit
this insanity.
What
And
we can
therefore,
do.
to have any form of fellowship, even the pretense of fellowship with those who are teaching such insanity,
Yeah.
is to commit effective treason against Jesus himself. God is seeking those to worship him in spirit and in truth. You don't get to divorce truth from the equation, and you don't get to
Okay.
start singing worship with radically false theology. The God that they worship and the gospel they proclaim is false. By his own definition, if you don't proclaim mandatory healing in your gospel, it's a false gospel. This is Jesus culture and Bethel music. These are the leaders behind it. This is the theology we're
Okay.
bringing to the table,
pretty
and that
much it
will
there.
eventually, inevitably,
Now here's a couple
see
of
through
interesting looking
their
graphs.
mantras,
This one here
see
was the
through
daily
their
infections number, and as
like
you
a
can
river,
see,
like a river.
in terms
Constant.
of numerical
What does that
values,
even
it is
mean?
climbing fairly dramatically.
See the same thing in Hillsong. Spirit
But
leading,
when you put it
spirit
into a
leading.
percentage
8
term,
cycles
so
in a
we're
row.
talking about relative values as opposed to absolute values.
Get ready for it. Bethel
You can
music,
see
okay?
it
Here's
climbed to
here's
about
the
90%.
conference. Heaven
And that was
right? There's
when
Bill
we had
Johnson's daughter,
fairly
Jen
big
Johnson,
jump, and
Brian
it appeared
Johnson.
to be
Of course, you got
mostly
Bill,
in China
Christine
where that
Kane,
jump occurred.
I believe she had her roots in the Hillsong movement.
And then big drop
Rich
down.
Wilkerson
Never got up
Jr.,
quite as high
you got
again.
Levi
And I
Lusko,
dare
who's
say it's
great
got a
friend
large
of the Calvary Chapel
amount to do with
movement,
the fact
and Greg
that
Laurie specifically.
the
We'll get into that in a bit.
infection was only just starting to
These
take
are the
hold
people,
at that
and
particular
also
point
he's
in
good
time.
friends with Stephen Furtick and
But
Carl Lenz, right, from Elevation.
I'm going to be
from
very
Hillsong.
interested to see
And then,
what
of
this
course, you
graph
got
looks like when we do it across
the whole
individual
Bethel
countries.
collective down here. Okay.
One of the things I'm
Conference
going to
2020
do is
just
see if we
happened,
can take China
I
out
don't
of the
know,
picture
a couple of
completely.
weeks ago. Passion
So-
2020. Who was there? Well, you got Louis Giglio, the Pope kisser,
There's
who
an
founded the whole
interesting
movement in
concept.
Passion City Church. There's his wife. You got their group, Passion,
wonder
the Passion Band, who is
if
headed up by
a
Kristen Stanfield.
logic.
Okay. You got David Crowder. You got Sadie Robertson. You got.
We're looking for a Boolean value, I think.
Lecrae,
A Boolean value
Elevation Worship
in.
out of Stephen Furtick's church. There's Carrie Job,
We'll-
Tadashi.
we'll give it a
John
test.
Piper,
We'll just
whom
give
a
it
lot
a
of people
test.
think is not wayward.
So
and
what we're going to do is
is.
we're going to do a sum of
Hello,
all the
everybody.
countries
Sean
that are not
Kieran,
mainland
saw
China,
sign
and
two
we'll
six-step
just see
records with David
what
Crowder,
that will
remember?
do for us.
Cody Karn, there's Levi Lusko
So
again,
we've
right?
got
The
US,
same guy that's over here with
there it
Bill
is,
Johnson,
mainland
the
China.
insane man
So we're
who
going
used
to
gold dust and feathers up here. And by the way,
extract
he goes on to defend that these
all of
feathers-
mainland China
he said,
and
well,
then
the Bible
just
does say
the
that
rest of the
God
globe
shields us under
without
his wings.
China in it.
He said, well, people said that's not literal. He said, well, that's what I thought. This man actually contends that God has literal wings and literal feathers.
Now this
and
is going to
that's
be a
where
little
his
bit of
feathers
an
came from.
experiment,
And I say,
and it's
this
going to
is
be
insane.
based on the experiment
Well,
is going to be
that's Bill
based on the years that I've
and
had
remember,
myself
Levi Lusko is part of
involved
this
in
little group.
in
Oh, there's Levi Lusko hanging out at the
programming
Passion conference with
about
Trip
20 odd
Lee,
years ago.
with Ravi
I'm just gonna
Zacharias.
take,
I've done an entire apostasy
I don't want
report on him.
conditional
Please
formatting,
view it.
I want-
Christine Kane, Social Club Misfits,
Nope, don't want that
Hillsong,
either. This
Andy
one might
Mineo,
work.
and America's
SUMIF.
favorite quarterback, Tim Tebow.
And it says not equal
Oh boy!
Apple. All right,
Now let's jump
that's
into
how we'll
Hillsong,
do it, I
Who
think.
arguably
The not operator is blah
set
blah
the
blah,
tone,
and it is
set the
inside the
stage,
text with
pun intended for
blah blah
most
blah.
of what we're seeing,
Okay,
for a lot of what we're seeing. Of course,
so
founded by
that's the only way we
Brian
can use
and Bobby
not.
Houston, longtime friends with
Is there any other way you can
modalist,
use not?
Trinity-denying heretic and prosperity guru T.D. Jakes.
Okay, all right.
Priscilla
Okay, so
Schreier,
wildcard search.
Popular in women's Bible studies, all the mega
Multiple
church world
criteria
over.
range
Cash
of summing
Luna.
up values.
I
Takes
guess
first
it's appropriate
arguments
that
range.
Cash is his name because that's what these people are after. I don't
As
know who he is.
and sum is returned only when all conditions are
Robert
satisfied.
Madu,
Okay,
Um,
right. So
Tasha
that means
Cobbs
I can
Leonard,
use
you'll see her name a lot.
multiple
Michael
columns
Todd. Okay, that's Hillsong.
to or test multiple
Let's get a little
columns with the
perspective
sum
here,
FS.
just briefly. 15 countries, tens of thousands, right? It's I think Hillsong is its own denomination.
Specify most
at this point.
127 conditions
And
appears
arguably
in some
the
FS.
Largest selling Christian label.
No, we'll just use some F.
or
And it looks like we
Christian,
can.
I don't
Yeah,
know if you
we've
call
only
it
got one
genre,
Boolean.
part of
Hang
Christian
on,
music,
no.
but
what's
Hillsong
this?
as a group has probably
No, we
sold
can use
more
less
albums
than.
most, if not all, Christians. Tens of millions. Okay.
Keep the criteria value.
Their prayer meetings are more like rock
20
concerts,
sell
and
news to
their
sell
musical
references.
messages from
Gives
God
the
often
same
become
results as
chart
above.
toppers. With followers like Justin Bieber and Kendall Jenner, Hillsong is not your ordinary church and is one of the fastest growing religions in the world.
That's
To the one and only Brian Houston from Hillsong.
Brian, welcome to Studio 10. I've actually been to one of these concerts for stories, and it's like a Beyonce.
So it looks like we're going to
concert.
use that as a
what
way
is it
of
about
adding things
Hillsong
up.
that draws so many young followers?
Let's go back to the
I think
spreadsheet.
the message that we represent,
So we're going to
is,
go
timeless.
equals
The
sum.
methods have to change, so I
Yeah.
think that we do what we can to reach 2015.
Well, let's just notice what he didn't say there, right? She says, what do you think
Okay.
draws these people? What was
Not wrong way
conspicuously
around.
absent from his answer? Jesus, truth,
Damn.
right? He mentions this message, right? Well, we have a timeless message.
Down.
I'll tell you why people are drawn to
Yep,
it
that works.
all the world over.
I had the control key, the
world
shift
loves
key,
it,
and the
and he's
down
on
key. It
secular
took me
talk
to the
shows
bottom of
that
the
love
column
it, and
straight
they're
away.
interviewed by some
Now
of
we can put in the comma.
the basest shows
And then we're
around.
going to
He
put in
and
the
his
not
other
operator.
pastors in the Hillsong
And then we're
movement.
going to go
They're
main.
loved by the world because they're a
main,
part of the world. The world
China.
embraces it because it reeks of itself. the world recognizes it
put in the wrong
as kindred.
operator there. It's supposed.
That's why she
to be
said,
bracket,
"Boy, it looked like a Beyonce concert." It does.
Commas. Okay.
It's nearly identical.
And then we're
to
going
any of
to
those. Well, no wonder.
Go up to the
I don't
top.
know who Beyonce is signed to, but I know Jay-Z was represented by Universal Music Group, so they're represented by the same record label. Is it any wonder that
So
their
I'm going to go
concepts
Control
look
Shift Up
the same?
arrow.
Suppose I shouldn't be surprised to
Why
find
are
out
you
that
not
Beyonce
going
is
up?
also represented by Universal Music Group.
What's going on here?
The point is, pick the artist. It looks just like a worldly concert because that's exactly what it is.
No.
It is not rooted
We're gonna
in
fix
truth.
this up.
It is rooted in marketing.
Okay.
It is rooted in euphoria. It is rooted in a temporal experience. Okay.
You're pissing me
Listen,
off.
here's Brian Houston.
Okay.
This is
let's get rid of
the
that again.
fundamental Brian Houston
We'll just
back
use
in the day.
mouse to get this going.
From Pastor Brian Houston, money.
There's not one person in this building who doesn't need more money. And if you say, well, I don't need more money, then I would say you have a very poor outlook on life.
You'll learn why you need more money.
Because money is a tool that can accomplish phenomenal things.
6.
This man has been part of the prosperity group for years, though he's arguably been outshined by
Press
people
enter.
like Joel
Okay,
Osteen
it
or
says
T.D.
8.
Jakes or Joyce Meyer. What you're going to find is that he's good friends with all
there
of
a
them
way of
because they
manually
have
checking
the
this?
same love. It's a love of money.
Let's find out.
A root
Right,
of
everything is 0,
all kinds of
0,
evil, if not all of it.
1, 2, 3,
And if you
4,
don't think you need more money, you have a real poor outlook on life.
5.
All right? These are the type of people that creep into widows' houses and fleece them.
6.
These are liars.
7, 8.
Right? Remember Paul talking about false apostles.
All
who,
checks up.
we're charging people money to hear messages
Nice
of
to do a
truth and
little bit of
whatnot.
auditing, and we're going to have to
Brian
put those
Houston
stupid dollar
has
signs
been
in
a
again.
money preacher
Let's
for
fix
years.
it. So,
And he has just found a more clever way to do it
Dollar.
without always talking about money.
Dollar.
He has slightly shifted the focus
Okay.
to general
now we're going to copy
self-help.
that out.
He has found what people want. Now understand this.
Not what I wanted.
There's an old
Gonna have to
axiom
Whoops.
that an old
Go back to AX.
grifter or a con
There it
man
is.
once said. He said, if
Control
I
V.
know what you
Okay,
want,
so we've got
I can take you
25,184
for everything.
confirmed
And so when it
infections.
comes to the conned and the con man, what is happening? The dynamic that is taking place, generally
According
speaking,
to this.
there's no innocent party there. The classic cons of the ages, typically and the most effective, work to exploit greed.
I think I should
in the
also
mark
look
or
for
the
one.
subject.
Do one
So,
for China
The
itself.
con man is
proper.
absolutely trying to take advantage of this person.
If I go,
But as the
Nah,
name
I'll
implies, they are
do
instilling
mine.
confidence
So this one
in
here.
the mark that person
Um,
is actually taking advantage of the con man, right?
Confirmed.
So you see this played out in those old scenarios where the guy comes
Globe.
in pretending not to know how to play pool,
minus
and they make a series
China.
of bets, and he loses, and then he says, "Oh, I'll bet $1,000." The other person is all too happy to take advantage of him.
All right, we'll drag down
when
the
the
date
con
again.
man then displays his true skills and takes that person for all their worth. He did it by exploiting their greed. They weren't innocent, and nor are the people that are taken in with.
Now, one of the things you should notice in
They're
this
not
particular
innocent.
one is that big
Their
jump
greed
that we
is being
see
exploited by
in
the
most
devil.
of the data
Little do they know.
will not be here.
They think they're going to get something
Because it
out
was
of
only China that
these
caused that big
self-help
date
messages
jump to occur. So
that rely
let's
on their inner
begin.
strength, but they've got this thin veneer of the name of Jesus and no substance of him.
Okay.
So they're
And
they're
we'll
going to
scroll
get
back
something,
here.
and they get got instead.
Scroll up a little
there are no
bit.
innocent parties in this scheme. Remember, we hear false teachers described
the
as
chart.
deceiving and being
Now,
deceived.
isn't that interesting?
They
We
are
are seeing a geometric
and
progression, a
perpetrators
nice
all at
smooth
once.
geometric progression
Oh, they're deceived. Make no
across
mistake
the
about-
world where
mistake about
China
it.
is not
But
included.
they're bent on deceiving as well, and they revel in their own deception.
Anyway, let's
Brian
blow it up a
Houston,
bit
you need
and
more money.
adjust the
Well,
appearance a
any
little
shock that T.D. Jakes and
so
Joel
that we can
Osteen
get
are
a
friends of his.
proper
This is at the
look
Hillsong
at it.
Conference a few years back.
Okay.
Craig Rochelle from lifechurch.tv.
Confirmed.
That YouVersion Bible app you have in your phone, that's owned by this deceiving man right here. There's Carrie Jo
Infections.
Leland from Bethel. Judah Smith,
Without-
a good friend of Carl Lentz, who's one of the Hillsong
no, we better say
pastors
global.
in New York. T.D. Jakes, when he has his conference, of course, he invites his old buddy
Global.
Brian Houston over.
Confirmed infections.
Brian Houston and Joel Osteen, I
without
think you can see that there.
China.
They've been close personal friends for
COVID.
quite some time. There's Joel Osteen with Carl Lentz at a
Minus
Hillsong, New York.
19. And
Who do we got
better
here?
go and
Joyce
grab
Meyer
the
celebrating 30
link
years
again.
of Hillsong Conference, right? There she is back at the 2012
There you are.
conference, a long-time friend of the entire Hillsong movement. I hope you see the
So we put
foundation
that in.
we're setting here. But behind this
Now
entire
we want
movement,
date on the
before
bottom.
the music ever comes out,
And
before
we
a
want-
lyric is written, this is the theology that is feeding into it. And it is impossible for that not to eventually leaven you. A little leaven leavens the whole lump unless we wish to make the
Minus
Holy Spirit a
China.
liar. Those words were not said in vain.
Okay, so
These are doctrines
that
of
up a
demons
bit.
being propagated by this whole crew.
There we go. Drag it
And here's
down
another one of
so
Brian
we get a
Houston's
nice-
friends, Nikki Gumbel.
nice
Nikki Gumbel of
big
the famed
graph.
Alpha course
look
out
at
of
that.
Holy Trinity.
That looks
Brompton,
almost identical to
over
all of
on
the
YouTube,
other
which again is an
all of
entire
the other
study. Any one of these people
countries
that are,
that are
mentioned
getting
talked about at length. But we're building a
infections.
comprehensive picture about the entire music industry. Okay, so we started with Hillsong. Now watch this. Holy Trinity Brompton, led by Nikki Gumbel, who's a longtime friend of his "You Need More Money" friend Brian Houston.
Now,
Here's Nikki.
if
Gumbel
I
back
were
at the
an
2011
auditing man
Hillsong conference,
with an
Watch
appropriate accounting
Nikki, it's great to have you with us. Thank you for joining
qualification,
us. Oh, thank you so much.
and I was looking at all of this proxy info that doesn't include China, I'd be very tempted to say there's something going on as far as China is concerned.
Absolutely.
We're not being told the full story.
It is so
Look at that.
amazing. We've had 3 days of just the love, the welcome,
Okay.
also the inspiration.
Well,
There is
I'm going to
so
start
much. I
feeding
don't
some of
think
these
there are
up
3
onto
days
my
in which I've learned so much, or
Facebook
been
page.
inspired so much, and seen a model that is so the thing that we want to do. And
stop right there. Seen the model that is
Yeah.
so the thing that we want to do.
So US
Talks
looks
about his
like so.
inspiration. This is
our
exactly
daily infection increase,
what
and
we
that
want to
is
do.
actually
That
including
is we.
the China figures.
He and his cohorts.
I'm
of
wondering
Trinity
what
Brompton.
these
So what did they do?
confirmed new daily infections
on
will look
Hillsong's
like
model,
if I
they
got China out of the
This,
picture.
the Holy Trinity
Maybe I'll
Leadership
spend the next
Conference,
half hour or so
HTB Leadership Conference.
taking a very close look
Listen.
at that.
Infinitely greater than what divides us. What unites us.
Okay, that
is
said 0%.
infinitely
Oh, that's the
greater
figure I
than
actually
what
put in,
divides
and that
us.
was for this one
That's
down
the whole
here.
theme. These men are all ecumenical.
So what I've done is
underneath
I've
it all. What unites us is more.
included all of these
How does he phrase it?
figures up
It's
here.
infinitely greater than what divides
And
us.
that included everything,
Who's us?
including China.
Well, us,
E229.
among
And
other
we'll
things,
go back down and see
includes
where we've got
this
to
guy
keep
right here.
relying on those. So that was this one here.
Well, I knew Pope Francis before becoming Pope. I didn't know
And
Justin Welby.
so that gives me
Just I
total
saw
daily
him
infections
This is one of the
with
men
China
that
in the
elected
picture.
Pope Francis to the papacy. This is a staple member in the Catholic Church.
Okay, so what
And
I
a
can
pretty
do
high-ranking
now
one to be on
is
the
I can
voting
take all
committee
of
for
those
Pope.
things that are summed.
This is what Nikki Gumbel's all about. What unites
Here
us
it
is
is. Starts
infinitely
with 8,
greater than what
14,
divides us. And what
25,
unites them,
35,
well, it's not
blah,
truth.
blah,
It couldn't
blah,
possibly
blah,
be
and it
truth.
goes
If
up.
you have questions
Let's
about
take a look at
Catholicism, please
those.
see the recent video.
I want to see
on that topic.
global confirmed
This is who Nikki Gumbel has.
infections, not
And
including
what does
China. And we'll
whatever
see
this
what
man's
that
name
does
say,
to
listen
our
to what he
data.
says. All of them together. You'll hear his voice here.
Together.
Alright, so we are at row 574. So we're going to subtract this one from this one to get our daily infection
Make us
increase.
one. Well, who's us? Well,
let's
there you got
begin.
a whole group of people, including
F574
Joyce Meyer. Big
minus
shot, right?
E574. 574.
And you got the
Let's put it in.
Archbishop of Canterbury who was there,
Okay.
Justin Welby, and a whole
Equals
host of other representatives from various
5
denominations, Anglicanism, and so forth, right?
74
It's all
minus
about uniting each other.
5
You see, this is the common theme.
74.
All right. Well, what does this have to do with worship? That's a great question. I'm glad you asked.
Does that look
This
right?
is to
Let's go back
establish
up and check.
who and
Yes,
what Nicky
okay,
Gumbel
there's a
is.
6 difference between 8
And exactly
14.
what his inspiration
I think we can
for
trust
what he
those
does
figures.
was.
Okay, now we should
was
be able to
Brian
go
Houston
all the
and
way
Hillsong
across
movement.
up to
Well,
AX.
this is Nicky Gumbel, also fond of the Pope, like
Okay.
Louis Giglio and others that we're going to see.
Okay.
So it's no wonder that he had one of the men that elected Pope Francis at his conference, excited to unite with those people that he claims we have much more in common than what divides us. This is a common talking point of the ecumenical heretic Rick Warren, who does similar things and has found himself at the Vatican on multiple occasions. Well, let's get a listen to Matt Maher, very popular contemporary Christian music artist. Listen.
There's been a buzzword floating around.
So grab this, bring it down.
The new evangelization. And I think what a lot of...
But the new evangelization, a buzzword floating around Catholicism. What's he talking about? Listen.
How annoying. All right.
So welcome to everybody. If this is your first time joining us at the Catholic Ecumenical Track, you're very welcome.
0, 0, 0.
My name is Father Emmanuel. I am a Franciscan Friar of the Renewal.
A better idea.
My name is Audrey Assad, and I'm a singer, songwriter, and worship leader. I live in Nashville, Tennessee.
I'm Matt Maher, and I'm an itinerant worship leader and songwriter, and originally from Newfoundland, Canada, and then lived in Phoenix.
China out of the picture.
Proof that God has a sense of humor.
Okay, that's good enough. Matt Maher and Audrey Assad are Catholics, and I bet you've heard of both of them. I believe Audrey Assad is mixed up with the Bethel group. In any event, they both are here at the IHOP conference.
Make a graph out of it.
It was called the One Thing Conference, out of IHOP, the International House of Prayer, led by Mike Bickle, who is also a friend of the Bethel organization. He and Bill Johnson are friends since the 90s and were part of a group that were termed the Kansas City Prophets. Now, Matt Maher's a Catholic. What was this video all about here? This is Matt Maher
get the brain
talking
into
about
gear.
the Alpha course.
And we'll go with our lovely little line graph again.
When I think of Alpha, that's what gets me most
Won't
excited
finish.
about it, because I feel like it's reaching out in the world and drawing them back into a place where...
This is a promo video for Alpha, which is created by Nicky Gumbel at the HTB Leadership.
This is going to be an interesting
Conference.
one to follow.
Out their Catholic friend Matt Maher
I
to do
think
a
that we
promo
can put a
video
lot more
for
trust
their
in this. Okay.
nonsense Alpha course, which is an entire topic on its own. Right? This is a supposed evangelism course that Rick Warren says is one of the greatest tools of evangelism in the 20th century.
Okay, and we'll just say,
generally speaking, if Rick Warren approves,
global.
that's probably not a good sign. That's Matt Maher.
Minus China.
And Audrey Assad at the Catholic Ecumenical Track at the IHOP conference,
Okay,
where
so
all
let's
sorts
go
of strange nonsense occurs,
grab
like
the
fire
link
tunnels
again.
and, the same gold dust and feathers falling mentality. That's where they find themselves, except Mike Bickle and their whole crew are now embracing
so we'll put
Catholicism,
the
just
date
like
in.
Nicky Gumbel.
And we're just going to put
And this is a
here.
popular worship artist. Part of, one of the biggest contemporary Christian music artists of all time. I wonder how many people even know that Matt Maher is a Catholic.
China.
Remember that song, Your Grace is Enough?
And finish.
He wrote it. When your church is singing
finish.
that song, that's who wrote it.
That's better.
Now here's Matt Maher at an event in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, playing for the Pope and talking about just how
Yeah, it's
privileged
looking
he is to be
more like it.
a part of the church in general.
We can
Listen to what he
expect the
says.
new infections to be daily and to be a bit more random.
I think it's really
But
difficult in these days to be a Christian.
You
And
could use a smoothing
stand up and
algorithm,
say, "I love
and you'll
Jesus all at
notice that
I
it
want you to
is
notice that when
largely
he refers
following
to the church,
the geometric curve
he's referring
pattern.
to his mother church, which is the Catholic
And
Church. His definition of church,
as of a few
and your
days
definition
ago,
of
we're
church
getting
aren't the same.
4,000
But what's happening
new
is this
infections
strange
per day.
convergence, and the Catholics are all too ready to welcome.
And down in
Protestant
Melbourne
brothers
here, we've just had
because you can bet your bottom
one of
dollar the
the
Pope is not bowing down to anybody.
big posh
It will eventually be you
grammar
that bows
schools
down to him. But
have
Matt
one of
Maher
its teachers apparently
believes in a
show
false
up
gospel,
infected with
a false
coronavirus and has
sacramental
apparently
gospel,
shut down
and
the
is yet
whole school
embraced
for an indeterminate
by the
period of
broader
time.
Christian community. Here you go. Listen.
That's the great thing about.
And one of the questions I did ask myself is why was it, or why is it, that we see this popping up in the wealthy demographics? Because I have noticed
to the world,
here in Melbourne that it is in the wealthy suburbs,
unashamedly,
and now
his
it would
Catholicism,
appear
and why wouldn't he?
the
Everybody
wealthy
accepts him. Everybody,
schools
including guys like Matt Redman,
in which this
Remember,
is
Matt
appearing.
Redman, what did he write?
And
he wrote
I put this
few
question
dozen
out on
songs. Here you go.
Facebook,
Matt
and somebody
and Matt.
else expressed
Good
the
to have
same
you guys.
thought that I
Good to be
had.
here. Thanks, mate. I don't
And
know
that
that we've
is
ever done one of these where you
that
got
Matt
these
Redman and
people
Matt
are
Maher
wealthy
are
enough
friends,
to trip off
songwriters,
overseas.
and so forth. And
They
it shouldn't
come back,
surprise you that
bring
Matt
the
Redman
infection
is
with
a
them.
staple feature.
And so
in
that's
Nicky
probably
Gumbel's
what's been
ecumenical
happening.
nonsense. Matt Redman.
So
Big-time
if
worship
you
leader.
are in a wealthy demographic in your industry,
wonderful friends to us.
so you might be in a childcare centre that has wealthy parents
Matt
bringing
and
their
Beth
kids
Redman
in,
are wonderful
then
friends
there's
of
an
this
increased probability
ecumenical
that you'll be
deceiver.
on the front line for the
Because
coronavirus
their mission
infection.
is not truth. Their mission is the business of making music.
Anyway,
Whatever
I'm
furthers
going
their
to
ability
now
to tour and
export
whatnot,
some
they'll
of
embrace
these
it.
because this is
Here they are again,
fun.
another Nicky Gumbel event.
And will continue to be fun because there's more
Matt,
questions
that
that
song
I've
you were
got.
just saying, that was extraordinary.
want
That
to
song you
know.
wrote, 10,000 Reasons.
What
If you thought Matt
do
Redman was
these
sound, you should think again.
details
But I bet
mean,
you're going to be
and what
really
can
shocked.
we expect
now,
to see over the next few
I
days?
bet you didn't know this one.
Is it possible,
Hey everyone,
with the
this is
data
Matt
that we've
Redman.
got,
I'm
to be
actually
able to make
backstage
any
at
kind
Libre
of
Office
predictions?
2013. It has been a
Well, the
beautiful
only
time.
thing we can
Absolutely
predict
amazing.
so
Joyce's
far is
teaching has
that
been
about
stunning as
4,000
always.
new
Andy
infections
Stanley
are coming at us
Priscilla
every
Schuyler.
day.
It's just been immense. And to
And
gather
this
players,
increased
to get to
from,
lead worship
what was the
with
figure
thousands
right
and
at the
thousands of
beginning?
women
I think
pouring
it
their
was,
hearts
yeah,
out to God
6
together. It's just been so
Six
powerful.
on
If you haven't
day
please-
0, or what has been
That name
defined to
Joyce
be day
sounds so
0.
familiar.
So
Surely
it's
he
gone
wasn't
from
talking about
6
Joyce Meyer, was he?
on
That's
the
exactly who
23rd
Matt
to
Redman
now
was talking about.
7th, which
Matt
is
Redman
around about
has led worship for Joyce
sorry,
Meyer's
from
conferences
the
for
22nd,
some
yeah,
time.
from the 23rd of January.
So it's not
the
just
7th of
Nicky
March.
Gumbel and his ecumenism. It's not
Around
just
about
Matt
6
Maher, the
weeks.
Catholic, and
So
his
we've gone from 6 a
Catholicism.
day
It's
within
Joyce
6
Meyer
weeks
and
across
her,
the world, without
false
China, that
teaching
is,
that Jesus was a born-again
to
man and that he had to suffer in hell.
4,000 new
And
infections
amongst other
per
things.
day.
Right? She supposedly
And
renounced
people
or
are trying
acknowledged
to
that she
prevent
went
the
a
thing
little
from
overboard
breaking
with the
out, but it
prosperity
is
teaching
popping
last
out
year.
all over the world.
But
so it
rather,
would seem.
unlike Zacchaeus, her repentance didn't
so
include
let me
restoring to
do
the people
a
she had
bit
built for
of-
millions. No, she's smooth sailing in
Going to
her millionaire
export some of
lifestyle.
these.
And even if she hadn't
Okay.
preached prosperity, she preaches so many other
20.
heresies.
Oh, yes,
it's
this is the
dizzying.
place to put it.
Not to mention her general
What
usurpation
was I
of
trying
God's
to put in
word as a
here?
woman who teaches and has
Global
authority
confirmed
over men.
infections.
But
Okay,
it's
that
not
was
just
global
Matt Redman.
confirmed
There's Chris
infections.
Tomlin. Did you know
New
that
infections.
Chris Tomlin
I haven't done one
tours
for-
with Joyce Meyer
active
and Stephen
infections
Furtick?
yet. Or have I?
Heresy on heresy. Who's this down here? Lisa Osteen
No,
Combs.
haven't
That's
done one
Joel
with
Osteen's
active
sister right there.
infections. We're going to have to do that
Chris
next.
Tomlin, the
Um,
brilliant songwriter, as he's styled here, is also
Nah,
a
it's
tour
getting a bit late.
mate of
I
Joyce
think I'm
Meyer
going to
the
stop
heretic.
at this point
Joyce
in time.
Meyer the prosperity teacher.
And
Joyce
we will
Meyer,
take a
the
look
false
at
teacher.
active infections
Yes, that is Chris
outside of
Tomlin.
China tomorrow,
And I
all
wonder how
being
many
well.
of you have a so-called worship leader that's all too happy to promote the ministry of Chris
Let me
Tomlin.
just
There's
put
Chris
this in
Tomlin
here.
and his friend Matt Maher. Let's see here.
Chart.
And I thought this is the coolest guy.
Image.
There you go.
It's
There's
going to
Chris
be a
and Matt
PNG
Maher on
image,
tour together.
So I'm going to just simply say.
Right? So Chris Tomlin is a fan of Catholicism too,
Confirmed.
or at least Matt Maher's brand of it. There's no discretion. So Chris Tomlin embraces Catholics.
Infection.
Gosh, here he is singing with a nun on stage.
Sans China.
Right, these are the people he brings up to
Sans
sing with
means
him.
without.
If you want to love a Catholic, you should tell them the truth about Jesus.
Okay.
You should
And
tell
this
them
is gonna be
you worship
global
what
new
you do not
infections
know.
daily.
Like Jesus did to a woman in John chapter chapter 4. He didn't leave her to go back to her false worship. He proclaimed truth to her, not Chris Tomlin. Nope. He'll sing with Joyce Meyer, he'll tour with a Catholic, and he'll bring a nun up on stage so that they can sing together and give everybody the impression that there's really no problem. They're united in fellowship, so-called, and worship.
Right, so
this is
done
false
that.
worship. Oh, it's singing all right, and it's a form of worship. But they worship what they don't know.
What's this? Confirmed infection.
That's Chris Tomlin. There's Chris Tomlin hanging
For
out
the
with Joel
US
Osteen
only.
at a Hillsong conference. Surprised? It gets worse. Like I said, I hope
So
you're
the
sitting
US
down.
is really starting to rip up the
Here's
charts.
Joel Osteen for those that persuading that he's an overall bad
Says
guy.
here
The Pope has obviously been
between
reaching out
400
and has been a force of moderation in
450.
comparison to his predecessors.
Let's go and take a
I
look.
think the Pope
It's
is
now
fantastic.
755.
You know, I just think
and
his
this is a
tone,
few
his
days later,
humility,
so
his, you know, I love
yeah,
when
look,
he
we'll
said
take a
that,
look
you
at
know,
the.
and it's our view too. We're not
When
trying
I
to
go in next
you
time.
know, make this a little bitty narrow
Actually,
thing.
I'll put the
Anybody's
question
welcome.
down
We
the
may not
bottom
agree,
here in
you
the
know,
cupboard.
100% on doctrine and theology, but you know what? The
So
church,
global active infections,
Catholic Church, our church, it's open for
global
everybody. So I like his
active
tone.
infections.
Not
It's open for everybody.
So I'm going to
We're
put
not
a
trying
note
to
for
make this
myself
a
down
little
here.
bitty thing. We're not trying to make this a
Repeat.
narrow way. We're trying to make it a nice broad way.
These
Remember what
charts
Jesus said about the broad way that leads to
excluding
destruction? He said, yeah, we might not agree on doctrine or theology,
China,
but, you know,
China
no
data.
biggie. No biggie, because Joel Osteen is not concerned with doctrine or theology. He's concerned with making you feel good, lulling you to sleep while you coast on to perdition.
All right.
Joel Osteen is not a minister of God, he's a minister of Satan.
I think that's
Again,
going
I
to
don't
do
say
for
that
the night.
lightly.
Yeah, I'll just
So
go back
excited
and
to
take
have
a
one of
quick
our
look and
favorite
see.
ministers in all the world, Joyce Meyer, here today. We know how much
Joyce
you
Meyer.
love her. We love her so much. Give her a great big hand clap as she comes, Joyce Meyer.
And there's Joyce Meyer.
Thank you.
One and the same with Joel Osteen.
Well, you guys are awesome.
And this was only about 6-7 months ago.
You are just...
You can see the networking beginning. Joel Osteen, Joyce Meyer. Wait, hey, look, there's Chris Tomlin again with Joyce Meyer.
Okay, so we haven't
and Rick Warren,
exported the US infections yet.
who says
so
if you
we'll
love
do that
Pope
as
Francis,
well.
you'll love Jesus. There he is, accepting his Dove Award, a knockoff, cheap imitation of the Grammys, doing everything
Export his
to
image.
not just
Huh,
appear
that saves me
worldly,
having
but
to run
actually
up to the top
to be
all the time.
worldly. Joyce Meyer. Oh, I bet you didn't know Phil Wickham toured with Joyce Meyer, too. Now, this is from the Joyce Meyer website. I'm not just pulling this up from nowhere. This is Joyce Meyer Ministries or joycemeyer.org. All right? Columbus, Ohio, August 23rd to 24th. Nationwide Arena.
My Corona.
If they can't get Matt Redman and they can't get Chris Tomlin, they'll get
My
Phil Wickham.
Corona.
These are three of the biggest, most
Looks like I'm
respected
overdriving the microphone, but anyway.
names in
Nothing like
evangelical
having a bit of fun from
contemporary
time to time.
Christian music that are embracing some of the rankest
My
heresies of
Corona.
Phil Wickham,
So much for the deep,
Chris Tomlin,
deep
Matt Redman.
voice. Was I
What's
going to
going
say
on
something
over
else?
Rick Warren, and Chris Tomlin.
Okay.
At, Night
All right,
Worship.
I'm going to call it quits for now. You guys have a good evening.
Yeah, see.
All right, I want you guys to do me a favor.
Chris Tomlin tours
We'll
with
see
Rick Warren too
what
regularly.
kind of
Now
new
here's
discoveries
an
we can
interesting
make
thing.
tomorrow.
You have on stage.
Good night.